They called it friendship. Some whispered it was something deeper, an obsession even. But between Melissa Gilbert and Patty Duke, the truth was far more complicated. For years, the world saw only fragments of their connection. Tender smiles, shared glances, and the quiet respect between two generations of actresses. But behind the scenes, their bond carried secrets that Hollywood never understood. For decades, Melissa remained silent. She watched the rumors swirl, the headlines twist her truth, and the whispers fade into myth. Until now. At 61, Melissa Gilbert has decided to speak, and what she reveals doesn't just rewrite a friendship, it reshapes everything we thought we knew about loyalty, pain, and survival in Hollywood's golden light. Before we uncover what Melissa has finally revealed about Patty Duke, we must first return to where her journey began, to the little girl who would one day become America's sweetheart. Before the world knew her as Laura Ingalls, the brave, wide-eyed girl of Little House on the Prairie, Melissa Ellen Gilbert was just a newborn in Los Angeles, California, born on May 8, 1964. Only a single day after her birth, she was adopted by actor and comedian Paul Gilbert and his wife, Barbara Crane, a talented dancer and actress. From that moment on, her destiny was sealed in the bright glow of the entertainment world. But behind that stage light, life wasn't always as perfect as the scripts made it seem. The Gilbert home was filled with laughter, yes, but also pressure, expectation, and the kind of uncertainty that only children of Hollywood can truly understand. Paul Gilbert, her adoptive father, was known for his warmth and sharp humor. He often took little Melissa along to auditions and rehearsals, letting her wander among cameras and cables. For her, this was normal life. The constant hum of film sets, the smell of makeup, powder, the click of film reels turning. Without realizing it, she was already being shaped by that world, absorbing its rhythm, its discipline, and its hidden costs. By the age of 7, Melissa was already on television, appearing in commercials for Alpo dog food and Crayola crayons. Her natural charm made her stand out immediately. Casting agents were captivated by her bright, expressive eyes and her uncanny ability to deliver lines with sincerity. And then, at the age of 9, came the audition that would change everything. Her screen test for Little House on the Prairie. They weren't just searching for an actress. They were searching for a soul, a child who could carry the innocence, courage, and heart of Laura Ingalls. What sealed Melissa's fate wasn't just her talent. It was her connection with Michael Landon, the show's star and producer. From the very first moment, he saw something in her that others had missed. He became more than a mentor. He became a father figure. He guided her, protected her, and offered her the emotional anchor she so desperately needed in a world that rarely gave second chances. When Little House on the Prairie premiered in 1974, Melissa was just 10. Overnight, she became a household name, the face of purity and hope in an uncertain time. But while America fell in love with the girl from Walnut Grove behind the soft glow of the prairie sun, Melissa's real life was beginning to show its shadows. For millions of viewers, Little House on the Prairie was a picture of innocence, a window into simpler times filled with love, family, and moral lessons. But for young Melissa Gilbert, the Prairie was not just a set. It was her world, her second home, her classroom, and at times, her only sanctuary. Behind those glowing television screens, life was far more complicated than anyone knew. In 1976, when Melissa was just 11 years old, her beloved father, Paul Gilbert, passed away. His death shattered the fragile foundation of her childhood. The man who had guided her with laughter and kindness was suddenly gone, leaving a silence that fame could never fill. The world saw a smiling little girl on screen, but off camera, she was mourning deeply, forced to grow up faster than any child should. Michael Landon stepped into that void. He didn't try to replace Paul, but he became the steady presence Melissa desperately needed. He was firm when she needed discipline, kind when she needed warmth, and protective when Hollywood's chaos threatened to consume her. Melissa would later say that she learned more about life from that Prairie set than from anywhere else. It wasn't just acting, it was family. But even with a surrogate father figure and millions of adoring fans, the pain of loss lingered. Each time the cameras rolled, she smiled through it, performing not only for the audience but for her father's memory. By 1983, when Little House on the Prairie ended, Melissa was 19. She had spent nearly a decade in front of the cameras, her childhood carefully framed by storylines written for someone else's imagination. Now, for the first time, there was no script, no camera crew, no Prairie. And without those things, Melissa faced a terrifying question. Who was she when she wasn't Laura Ingalls anymore? After the Prairie, Melissa tried to find her footing in the real world, one that was far less forgiving than the fictional Walnut Grove. Hollywood, once her playground, became a battlefield. She was no longer the bright-eyed child. She was a young woman expected to be glamorous, seductive, and grown up overnight. Her first great romance came in the early 1980s with Rob Lowe, the charming blue-eyed teen idol of the decade. Together, they were the golden couple of young Hollywood. Every red carpet appearance, every magazine cover painted them as perfect. But perfection, Melissa would soon learn, is a dangerous illusion. Behind the flashbulbs and smiles, their love was turbulent. Both were young, ambitious, and yet still trying to discover who they were. Fame magnified every argument, every mistake. When the relationship ended, Melissa was heartbroken. She had believed Rob was her forever. But in the ruins of that heartbreak, she began to realize something she hadn't understood before. She had spent so much of her life playing roles for others, she had forgotten to write her own. Years later, she would admit, "I thought I knew what love was back then, but I didn't even know who I was." Her next chapter unfolded quickly. In 1988, at just 24, she married actor and writer Bo Brinkman. Their love was passionate and wild, burning fast and bright. Within a year, she gave birth to her first son, Dakota. Motherhood changed everything. For the first time, Melissa wasn't performing for the world. She was living for someone real. But the marriage, like so many in Hollywood, could not survive the relentless pressure of fame and conflicting dreams. In 1992, it ended in divorce, leaving Melissa emotionally drained but also reborn in her determination to stand on her own. She threw herself into work, determined to rebuild. In 1995, she found love again, this time with actor Bruce Boxleitner. Their relationship grew slowly, built on patience and understanding. It wasn't a whirlwind, it was a steady flame. Together, they welcomed a son, Michael, named in honor of her mentor, Michael Landon. For a while, it seemed like Melissa had finally found her peace, but fame has a way of testing even the strongest foundations. By 2011, after 16 years of marriage, Melissa and Bruce parted ways. The breakup was painful but necessary. For the first time, Melissa was truly alone, not as an actress, not as a wife or mother, but as herself. And that, she later said, was when her real life began. For someone who had grown up in front of cameras, Melissa Gilbert's relationship with her reflection was never simple. From the moment she left Little House on the Prairie, Hollywood began to whisper, "The little girl with the braids is gone. What does the woman look like now?" Those whispers grew louder as the years went on. Casting directors wanted her polished, glamorous, flawless. The world that once adored her innocence now demanded perfection. At first, Melissa tried to play along. In 1981, at 17, she starred in a remake of Splendor in the Grass, a bold, emotional role that marked her transition into adult acting. But behind the scenes, she was struggling with an impossible question. How could she become a woman when the world refused to let her stop being a girl? Gone were the prairie dresses and freckles. In their place, stylists, makeup artists, and the unspoken rule that beauty came before everything. Melissa smiled through it all, but deep down she felt herself fading. Each comment about her body, each headline about her looks, chipped away at her confidence. By 18, she made a decision that would haunt her for years. She underwent a nose surgery, believing it would make her more camera ready. In her memoir, Prairie Tale, she later confessed that she tried to convince herself it wasn't a big deal, but it was, because that moment marked the first time she changed herself for Hollywood, not for Melissa. The surgery didn't go smoothly. She endured pain, swelling, and complications that required 2 more operations. Each one left her feeling more distant from the girl she used to be. Still, the industry didn't let her stop. The 1980s were brutal to actresses. They were told how much to weigh, how to smile, and even how to breathe on camera. Melissa, once adored for her authenticity, was now chasing an image she barely recognized. She dyed her hair, got breast implants, refined her features, trying to fit into a mold designed by others. To the outside world, she looked confident, radiant, successful. But behind that facade, she was exhausted, performing even when the cameras weren't rolling. Magazine covers picked her apart. Interviews focused more on her appearance than her talent. She smiled through every insult, but inside she felt hollow. It wasn't just her image that was being sculpted, it was her soul. Years passed. The mirror became both her comfort and her enemy. And then one day she realized she was tired of pretending, tired of trying to stay young in a world that feared age, tired of letting Hollywood decide her worth. In 2015, Melissa Gilbert did something few actresses dared to do. She walked away from the illusion. She had her breast implants removed. She stopped dyeing her hair. She stopped fighting time. Speaking to People magazine, she called it one of the smartest decisions I've ever made. To her, it wasn't just about looks. It was about freedom. She was reclaiming her body, her health, and her peace. There's no such thing as anti-aging, she told Prevention. It's derogatory and demeaning. Aging is a privilege, not a problem. Those words echoed through Hollywood, a challenge to an industry that worships youth and discards wisdom. For Melissa, the transformation was more than physical. It was spiritual. She embraced her wrinkles, her silver hair, and the quiet beauty of self-acceptance. Each line on her face became a story, not a flaw. And for the first time, she no longer felt like she was acting. She was living. When 15-year-old Melissa Gilbert first stepped onto the set of The Miracle Worker in 1979, she had no idea that one woman would change her life forever. That woman was Patty Duke, already a Hollywood legend, a survivor of fame's highest highs and darkest lows. From the very first day, something unspoken passed between them. Not rivalry, not distance, but recognition. Patty had once been exactly where Melissa was, a child star, praised and pressured in equal measure. She saw in Melissa the same spark, the same vulnerability, the same hunger to be seen for more than a role. Patty wasn't just her co-star. She became her mentor. And in many ways, the mother figure Melissa had been missing since her father's death. Patty played Anne Sullivan, the teacher who helped Helen Keller find her voice. Melissa played Helen, blind, deaf, and trapped within her own silence. And as their characters fought and loved on screen, something just as powerful was unfolding off it. Patty pushed Melissa hard. She refused to let her coast through the performance. When the director yelled, "Cut!" Patty didn't comfort her. She challenged her. "Don't act," she told her. "Feel it. Live it. Be it." Melissa later said that some days she left the set in tears, physically and emotionally drained, but she also said those were the days she truly became an actress. Patty Duke was tough, but her toughness came from love. Behind every sharp word was a desire to protect the young girl she saw being swallowed by the same machine that had nearly destroyed her own youth. Off camera, Patty's mentorship deepened into something more intimate. She would share us stories from her own chaotic life, her early fame, her struggles with mental illness, the loneliness that came with adoration. She warned Melissa about the danger of losing oneself in the industry's illusions. Melissa listened, wide-eyed, heart open, realizing that Patty wasn't just teaching her about acting. She was teaching her about survival. There were moments when Patty defended Melissa fiercely, when others criticized the young actress too harshly or pushed her too hard. Patty was the first to step in. "She protected me like a mother lion," Melissa once said. "She made me feel safe in a world that often felt too big and too cruel." But what truly changed Melissa's heart was not Patty's strength. It was her vulnerability. Patty was one of the first Hollywood stars to speak openly about her bipolar disorder at a time when few dared to discuss mental health. To see someone so accomplished, so admired, reveal her pain without shame, it gave Melissa a new definition of courage. It taught her that a strength doesn't mean perfection. It means honesty. Patty Duke's laughter also left its mark. Melissa said Patty could light up even the darkest room, cracking jokes between takes, making everyone laugh until their sides hurt. She could turn pain into humor, Melissa recalled. "She reminded me that even in chaos, there's always light." Then, in 2016, came the news Melissa had dreaded. Patty Duke had passed away. When she heard, Melissa broke down. She wrote a tribute that felt less like a goodbye and more like a love letter. "To the woman who taught me how to be brave, how to laugh through tears, and how to tell the truth, even when it hurts." Patty wasn't just a co-star. She was a guide, a protector, a mirror of everything Melissa could become, and everything she had to be careful not to lose. Their bond defied time and fame, and even now when Melissa speaks about her, there's a quiet reverence, the kind reserved for souls who change us forever. Today, the woman who once grew up under the world's gaze lives far from the cameras that defined her youth. Melissa Gilbert, now 61, has built a life that looks nothing like Hollywood, and that's exactly how she wants it. After decades in the spotlight, she quietly stepped away. With her husband, actor Timothy Busfield, she moved to a small farmhouse in the Catskill Mountains of New York. There, she found what she had never known in all her years of fame: silence. No red carpets, no paparazzi, no scripts to memorize, just the sound of wind through the trees, the bark of her dogs, and the steady rhythm of real life. She calls it peace. In her 2022 memoir, Back to the Prairie, Melissa wrote about rebuilding that old farmhouse, about leaky roofs, muddy gardens, and the joy of simplicity. The book was not about fame or success. It was about healing. Each chapter was a reminder that true happiness often begins when the spotlight fades. Fans who once adored Laura Ingalls now saw a different kind of heroine, not the girl who fought storms on the prairie, but the woman who found freedom in imperfection. Melissa has also become a powerful voice for authenticity in a world obsessed with filters and perfection. Through interviews, books, and social media, she encourages women to age gracefully, to stop apologizing for growing older, and to embrace every season of life. There's beauty in every wrinkle, she says. Each one tells a story. She even co-founded Modern Prairie, a lifestyle brand dedicated to celebrating women in midlife through creativity, friendship, and self-expression. The message behind it is simple yet profound. Aging isn't something to hide, it's something to honor. Her Instagram today isn't filled with designer gowns or photo shoots. It's filled with snapshots of her garden, her dogs, the glow of a sunset on her porch. Quiet proof that peace can be louder than fame. She laughs easily now without the self-consciousness that once shadowed her smile. She looks into the mirror and sees not a child star or a Hollywood actress, but a woman who has earned every scar, every lesson, every ounce of serenity. Melissa's story is no longer about survival, it's about truth. A truth she learned from her father, from Michael Landon, from Heartbreak, and most of all, from Patty Duke. That real beauty doesn't fade, it grows deeper, more human, more honest, and as her life's chapters continue, Melissa Gilbert stands as living proof that sometimes the greatest role you'll ever play is simply yourself. So when Melissa Gilbert finally broke her silence about Patty Duke, it wasn't for fame or nostalgia or redemption. It was because she had finally learned to speak her truth, without fear, without filters, and without pretending to be perfect. Her story reminds us that even in Hollywood, a world built on illusion, authenticity can still shine brighter than the spotlight. And maybe that's the real miracle of Melissa Gilbert's journey. That after decades of playing someone else, she finally found the courage to just be herself. If you were inspired by her story, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because every story of honesty deserves to be heard.